Welcome to Building a Foundation Ministry, the Ministry of Reconciliation. My guest is running a little late, but we're going to be talking about the apple does not fall too far from the tree. This is a tough subject, and the reason I had my guest come is because we're going to be talking about children. And a lot of times I'm told that unless I raise a bunch of kids or I have a lot of kids, then I can't speak on that. I don't really think that's true because I raised a lot of kids, grew up with kids, so I understand. But just to get you started and let you know what we're gonna be talking about, um, does the parents play a role in the development of their kids? I want to give you a food for thought. I want you to think about this. If you take a seed for an apple tree and you drop it off in a poison ground and then the fruit come out bitter, can you be mad at the fruit? Think about that. Yes, a child is responsible for every decision that they make, but a child can only make a decision based on the box that they live in, for instance. See, when a child is young, the mother has to develop this child, has to set certain standards, have to set down certain laws. And some laws have to be enforced and not negotiated. And a lot of times you find parents today want to sit down and negotiate with their child. They want to make a deal with their child. I heard somebody tell me a long time ago, they said children do not come with an instruction manual. They say you live, you learn as you go. I don't believe that's true. Yeah, I want to start a little mess. I don't believe that's true. I believe that children do come with an instruction manual. And that instruction manual is the Bible. The Bible said, train up a child in a way that a child should go. And when that child is old, it will not depart. That does not mean that the child won't go different ways, won't try different things. But if you train up a child in the way that that child should go, then that child will turn back to what that child knows. But if that child don't know anything, that child is only going to turn back to what it do know. And then the first thing that the parents say is that, I did a good job. I raised my child. I worked hard. I fed my child. I did this and I did that, right? Well, let me ask you a question. You buy your kid a bunch of things. You feed them. You put a roof over their head. You do all the things that you're supposed to do as a parent, right? But your child still turns out a certain way that you didn't want them to turn out. And you ask yourself, what happened? I did everything right. I mean, I was there for them. I loved them. I took care of them. So what happened? You ask yourself that question. And then you have other parents who had it all. They was wealthy. They had good homes, good schools, good educations, and their child still turned out a way that they didn't expect the child to turn out. And you keep asking yourself, like, where do I go wrong? What am I doing wrong? Why is this happening to my child? Well, the Bible says this. The Bible says that whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. That also applies with the family. The reason I know that is because in the book of Deuteronomy, it says that you are supposed to teach them morning, noon, and night. Every chance you get, you're supposed to be shaping them and molding them into what you want them to be. And if you're going to allow toys and gifts and phones and computers and society and all of these little things to raise your kids, and then if they turn around and make a bad decision, right? You're going to say, well, everybody make bad decisions. You're always going to justify you not doing what you're supposed to do as a parent. No, I'm not pointing fingers at anybody. I'm not putting anybody down. I'm not saying you're not a good mother or a good father. We're not going to let that get started. I'm giving you food for thought because I want you to understand something, right? We don't have full statistics, but I want to give you some numbers real quick because I want you to think about something. When I was in school, right, they used to paddle us in the principal's office. You got some people out there that remember that. When we did wrong, we got 3 licks on our behind back in those days. We used to have to pray in school. We used to have to stand like a family and hold hands and different things like that in school. Back in those days, this is not a fact, but it could be coincidence. It could be anything. But back in those days, crime in America, for instance, was at a low 20-something%, if I'm not mistaken. When they took all of these things out of school, no praying in school, no disciplined kids, no doing this, no doing that, then crime shot up in America to 80-something%. Number one, adolescents in the world right now, they lead in divorce, they lead in crime, they lead in dropouts, they lead in disrespecting their parents. Adolescents lead everything that you can think of in the world right now. Adolescents lead it. So here's my question. If I'm doing such a good job raising my kids, why is these numbers so high? It's something to think about. Why are these numbers so high? Let me go back to what I was saying. I am not blaming you. It is not your fault when your child make a decision to do something wrong. I want to make sure that this is clear. But what I'm saying to you is you got the best part in the world when your child is born. Your best part in the world is putting something in that child that cannot be removed. Don't let the streets raise your child. Don't let society raise your child. Don't let his peers raise him. It is the mother and the father's responsibility to raise that child and to put something in that child of value. I remember this movie, Menace to Society, and this older guy, I don't know his name, but he was talking about his son who wanted to be a Muslim. And he said, I don't necessarily agree, I'm putting it in my words, with what he's doing. But if Allah can make him a better man than Jesus, then I'm all right with it. In other words, what he's saying is, if he has something to believe in that's going to keep him on a straight path, then I'm cool with that. I'm okay with that. And so I got some hard questions for my guests when she show up. Right now, she had to deal with her children, and that's why she's probably running a little bit behind. I think she just arrived. So when my guests come, I'm going to allow her to introduce herself, and we're going to continue from there. But I want you to think about that. You have the responsibility of putting something in that child that cannot be taken out. Give me a few seconds. Yes, I'm ready. Yeah. Well, thank you. I'm going to give her a chance to introduce herself. But this is my niece. And I want everybody to say hi to my niece.
Hi. Hey, everyone. My name is Fantasia. And I was asked to be here part of the podcast to have a real conversation on the topic. And I'm a little late, so forgive me.
Okay, so I got some hard questions for you.
Oh, Lord.
Okay, you ready?
No. Yes, I'm ready.
Why don't you tell everybody what it's like to be a single mother with How many kids you have?
3.
3 kids. What is that like?
I can speak from a lot of different angles on that just because I'm older now. I had my first baby at 15. And so with her having my mom and the support system that I had at the time, I don't think I really felt the weight of being a parent, you know what I'm saying? Because my mom was there. And, you know, she always, you know, if I had any questions or if I couldn't go to sleep because my baby was up, my mama would, you know, carry that load, you know. I didn't have to pay bills. I was still living with my mom, you know. I didn't have to worry about food, you know. So when I did start working, most of my money I could spend on my baby, you know, and spend on myself however I felt like. It wasn't really until I got older and had my son and I was, you know, living on my own that I really felt, you know, the weight of being a single mom because, you know, at that point, everything's on you, you know, and then you have this little human being running around carefree, you know what I mean? And everything is on your shoulders, you know, even on days when you're tired or days where, you know, you don't even know yourself, you know what I mean? How you gonna make it through the next day. You have to because you have someone looking up to you. Then, of course, I had my baby, my youngest, Journey. And by that time, I think, you know, I had experienced both sides. But being a single mom, it's a lot of work. And at the same time, I don't think I would take anything away from it because it built me.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And it made me who I am. You know, my children, they're like my conscience in a way because they convict me when my heart isn't in the right place or when my mind isn't in the right place. You know what I mean? They always keep me on that straight and narrow.
Okay, so I was telling the people, I'm going to repeat something that I said earlier. I said, if you take a seed and you plant a seed in some poison soil and the fruit come out bitter, can you be mad at the fruit?
No.
Okay. So I say that to say this, okay, as a mother, do you think that you play any responsibility in how your children turn out? Do you play a role in that? Like for instance, if your child make a bad choice, right? Are you gonna say, oh, he made that choice, I was a good mother, he did that himself, or are you gonna say, where did I go wrong? What did I do that could have kept her from going down this road? I mean, how would you handle that?
Honestly, I think that it all starts from a foundation. You know, just like planting a seed. If you're even though you're planting a seed, is your soil good? Is your water clean? Is you know, is the foundation the right place to put this seed? You know what I'm saying? So, and also I believe in the Bible. I'm not sure what verse it is or what scripture it is, but I think in the Bible also it lets us know that, you know, you are responsible for your children up until a certain age. You know what I'm saying? Right. At the same time, you have to make sure that you're instilling good things. You have to make sure that, you know, you're being yourself an example, you know, in front of your children. And I think, you know, at a certain point in time, though, it is up to that child to take what they've learned and either, you know, use that to move forward and grow, or they're going to go a different way. And I think at that point, it's no longer on that parent. You know, I think a parent is only responsible for, you know, to a certain extent. Okay,
I'm going to ask you another question. This question is kind of tough, right? I'm going to speak from personal experience. Okay. If my mother hurt me when I was young, which she did, and I stored this in me, and I carried it for years and years and years, right? And if I tried to talk to my mother about it, she would say, I don't want to talk about the past. No disrespect, but women always say, I don't want to talk about the past. I don't want to bring that up. And so I'm suffering and going through something because I believe something in my mind, right? I could be totally wrong. But if me and my mother never sit down and discuss this, then I won't know that I'm wrong. I'm going to continue to assume and believe something that may not even be true. So this is my point. I tell women all the time that if your child is hurting and your child is going through something, if your child is mad at you, for instance, right, for some reason or another, and you say as a parent, I didn't do anything wrong. I raised you right. I did this right. I did that right. I tell parents all the time, it does not matter what you think you did or believe you did. Absolutely. Something happened to cause that child to feel the way that they feel, which means that as a mother or a father, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to talk with that child. And I'm going to try to find out what it is that that child believes so that we can clear this. And once it's clear, if he still want to carry that or she still want to carry that, then that's on them.
Right.
Do you think that's a fair statement?
Yes. I believe what you're saying is true. And I can only speak that because I was raised in love. You know, my mom wasn't, we wasn't always rich and we didn't always have everything we needed, but we had these things called come to Jesus meetings where, my mom would gather the three of us, me and my brothers, and, she would sit us down and she would be like, is there anything on your mind? She would ask us, is there anything I've ever done, to make you feel any type of way? Is there anything that you want to talk about? Anything that's bothering you that, of course, you can't tell, because sometimes, people walk around all the time and things are wrong with them and you never know, especially kids. Because a lot of kids don't know how to express themselves, they don't know how to speak up, or they have a fear of, speaking up or feeling like they're going against their parent or whatever. But my mom opened that floor for us to feel and for us to be emotional and for us to tell her, I felt like this when this happened,
Right.
And if she can recollect, she would apologize. She would explain, oh, I remember that day. I was going through this. I was going through that. It wasn't my intentions to hurt you and, different things like that. And so I brought that as well into my own household with my children. Because at the end of the day, I need my children to know that I love them.
Now, I might need some counseling from you.
No. And like I don't think I crave anybody else's love on this planet more than my children.
Okay.
And so it's important. Like you have to people are already walking around this world guarding themselves. You know what I'm saying? So I think it needs to be instilled in your children to be open, to be verbal, to be vulnerable, when you need to be. Because that's what raises these crazy kids. You know what I'm saying? That's what, no, real talk. Right. Like, that's what sends people. They come up not being able to express themselves, not being able to go to the people that hurt them. So they take that on and they hold that on and they take that into every relationship that they have. They carry that into their jobs. They carry it into the grocery store, just mad for no reason, And even getting into relationships is important because you're taking that into a relationship with a person that has no idea that is inside of you. You know what I'm saying? So it's very important to, even, and I have to say that even if it's not your parent, I think it's always important to have somebody that you can cut wrists with.
Well, I want to say this, right? The Bible says that love covers a multitude of sins, right?
Facts.
And love is also more powerful than the grave. Why am I talking about love? The reason I'm talking about love is because I believe that Jesus Christ is love.
Yes.
I believe that God is love. So I believe that if you don't have a relationship with love and you don't understand love, then you can't give love to anybody else.
Not correctly.
Right? So I'm saying that to say this. When I got older, okay, I realized something about a woman, okay, that I didn't know as a young man, okay? And I'm saying this because I want the world to know this. Women love hard, okay? Especially when it comes to their children, okay? It don't matter if your mother was on drugs, she still love you. It don't matter if she gave you up for adoption, she still love you. It doesn't matter if your father took you and she didn't want you, she still love you. Okay, I'm gonna tell you why I'm saying this. Because There was a friend of mine, and I want you to hear this. He was a big old guy, by 6 something, 6 feet something. And I brought his father up. And he got mad. He was like, don't bring that son of a so-and-so up. I don't want to talk about him. You know, he was 50-something years old, still talking about how much he hated his father. And he said, if I say something again, he going to beat me up. Wow. So I told him, I was like, man, you a big old punk. Excuse my language, but that's what I told him. I said, you messed up in the head, man. He was like, why? I said, you ain't man enough to go sit down with your father and ask your father, why did he abandon you? Why did he leave you? Because nobody does nothing for a reason. There's a reason behind everything that we do. It may not be right, but there's a reason behind it. And so I was like, talk to your father.
Right.
And I kept messing with him. Finally, he wrote a letter to his father. And his father's new wife sent a letter back to him and told him that his father was sitting in a chair reading his letter. And he started crying. And he had a heart attack and he died in a chair. And this big old guy started crying in my arms because all them years he wanted to know this man who abandoned him. He was mad at him, but he didn't know how, like you just said, to go and talk to him and try to find out what's going on.
Right.
Communication is very, very important in relationship. And love is the center of an apple that we was talking about. And that's why people join gangs. That's why people get mixed up with the wrong crowds. Yeah. That's why they mess with the wrong women, because they're seeking love that they felt like they didn't get at home.
Yep. Very true. And you know, at a point in time, like I was saying, you have to want to heal. You know what I mean? Like you have to want to be better. You know what I mean? That if you don't have that desire within yourself, it's not gonna happen. You know, a lot of people hold on to hate just so that they can hate, if that makes sense. I don't want to let that go. I don't want to address that. I want to stay mad. I want to, have this whatever about me, because this person hurt me. And at the same time, it's like, well, you really don't want to heal. You know what I mean? You don't want to experience real love, because real love is going to make you be vulnerable, and it's going to, it's going to touch you in a way to where, you're vulnerable and you're open and you're putting yourself out there, and at the same time, not realizing that on the other side of that is healing. You know what I mean? And it's forward movement. You know what I mean? So,
well, we're getting ready to bring this to a close. So I'm going to ask you a question, and I'm going to let you ask me a question. But this time, I'm going to let you go first.
I don't have no questions.
You don't have any questions for me? None.
No. Not necessarily, no.
I'm going to ask you a hard question. And the reason I'm asking this question, I'm not even looking for an answer. I'm going to just tell you. I just want to know what your opinion is. As a single parent, do you think that fathers or mothers raise children to be more, shall I say, stable? Is that a good word? Or do you think it's equal?
If I had to answer that honestly, only just from my own perspective and my own experience, I believe that fathers raise more emotionally stable children. And I think that mothers raise their children more, I don't even know how to put this in words, but more emotionally. You know what I'm saying? Like I think that fathers, men in general, y'all think logically.
Right.
Y'all move from logic, whereas women, we operate from an emotional state. You know what I'm saying? And so I think mothers are more nurturing and fathers are more structured. You know what I mean? Like,
So what you say it takes, so what you say that two parents, when two parents have a child or children, instead of them making a decision, right, because they done got tired of one another, they should consider the kids before they make their decision?
Absolutely not. I feel like you don't ever stay for the kids. I feel like two parents can be in two totally different places and still raise a perfect child. Or not perfect, but a good child. i.e., my oldest Jordan, she prefers her dad over me, and that's fine. You know, because she's with him, it's just him and her. It's not me, her brother, her sister. She ain't sharing no room. You know, she got her space. You know,
Right.
she's the favorite. You know, and that's fine. And look at where my baby is. You know what I mean? So, you know, when she need me, she gonna call me. Okay. When she needs to cry, when she needs to vent, when she, you know, not saying that she doesn't talk to him about those things, but I'm gonna be the one sitting on the phone crying with her. Like, we all crying on the phone now, you know. Whereas he's gonna be like, "Stop crying. It's gonna be okay. You don't need to cry.
That sounds like
you know, you're gonna move on. It's gonna get better." And nothing's wrong with that. You know, nothing's wrong with encouraging them to get past those emotions. But sometimes my baby be needing to cry. You know what I'm saying? She be needing somebody to just sit there and listen to what she's feeling. You know what I'm saying? Or what may be going on in her head. So, and my baby, she surpassed a lot of people. You know, people, when I was carrying her at 15, it was grown women judging me for, you know, the situation that I was in. Of course, it was a horrible situation, but those same people that put their mouth on me and my child, you know, can look at us now and be like, wow, you know, I never thought that this baby could raise this baby to become who she did that. And so, you know, and it was a team effort. You know what I'm saying? It was so much love and so much support for me. You know, when I had my oldest, that, like I said, I didn't feel a lot of the blunt, you know. Right. And so, again, back to love. It's love covers a multitude, you know, and grass can grow again. Even on bad soil, I believe that things can grow, you know, that weren't there before because of love. You know, two people can hate each other, you know, from one side of the world to the other side of the world, but love and understanding, you know, it can fix a lot. It can mend a lot. And, you know, just to tap back on that, the conversation of, you know, is it, you know, the parents' fault, you know, the apple don't fall too far from the tree. I forgot where I was going with that. But, Jesus Christ, and I had a good point too. But I done lost my train of thought.
That's
but,
okay.
Yeah, it's, you know, it's a deep conversation to have, but a good one.
I think they're gonna want to see you again. I think she did a beautiful job.
I'm so nervous, y'all. It's not even funny.
I mean,
can't tell.
She messed my head up. I mean, she if y'all wanna see my niece again, leave comments. I'm gonna make sure that she's come back to visit. But I want to prepare you for something. I think that the next Friday will be the Friday before Valentine's, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm probably gonna do a Valentine's Day podcast. I want y'all to watch, leave comments. If there's anything that, any subjects y'all want to talk about, let me know. I also want to let you know, in the near future, I have a friend, which is a police officer, and he's also going to be on the show. I plan to have my pastor on the show when I talk to him about it, and other men and other women. And I just want to say this. I'm not doing this podcast. I can't speak for nobody else. I'm not doing this podcast for recognition. I'm not doing it to look good, to sound good, for none of that. I'm doing this podcast because I want to give something to somebody, and I know that there's somebody out there that's listening that may receive something from me that will make them a better person. I'm doing this because I want to give something to somebody, right? I want to see a difference or a change in people. And not only that, but you guys help me. What you say, your comments, your love. Sometimes I see two people on there saying something to me. I'd be so happy. Oh, they said something. Like, you don't know what a simple thank you can do. We got to get out of here. But y'all be good and look for us, man. Look for us on the next podcast. This is another episode from Building a Foundation Ministry, the ministry of reconciliation. Now I'm going to ask my niece to close us out.
Thank you for having me on. This is my first podcast, by the way. So, I don't know the ins and outs, but
Neither do I.
It was a good conversation. Healthy conversation, and I do want to leave off and say, y'all talk to y'all parents. Y'all get better, heal, move forward, so that you can love and love from the right place. I know that a lot of times when I didn't know a lot of what my mom was going through until I got older. And I was like, wow, I can imagine now looking back going through what my mom, could have been feeling or trying to raise the three of us and I never saw it. So, it's really important. I think this is a wonderful podcast. I love just the whole makeup of it, the foundation of it. And so I believe it's going to grow. And thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Well, we're out, and we'll see you next time.